to the weekend, and we finished. We're going to talk about United in a bit, but we talked about Arsenal a little bit compared to City. I just wanted to come back to that Villa game, and Thomas Partey not being there.
Yeah,
I think Jorginho is a really good player. Same position, different profile to Partey. Certainly not in terms of physicality.
Yeah,
but maybe even more of a ball-playing, holding midfielder. And the goal he scored, obviously a very good goal, although he can try again and it would never go in that way.
Yeah.
But defensively, do they worry you a little bit in the sense that, we saw Saliba being, struggling against Tony, struggling against Calvert-Lewin even to some extent, struggling against Watkins, certainly on that first goal that Villa scored. They don't keep clean sheets anymore compared to earlier in the season, certainly not as much. Do that worry you in a title race? Do you have to be better defensively than offensively? Because goals are always going to come.
Yeah.
So is it the tightest team between City, Arsenal and United, especially Arsenal and City, I guess, or actually that doesn't make a difference?
I think it does make a difference, but I think it's about your perspective. So if Arsenal were playing better, they'll control more of the ball, they'll have more territory, so you won't really have many opportunities to score against them. I think that'll be the biggest thing. Are they giving up a ton of big chances to the opposition, or are the opposition just taking the chances that are presented to them
true.
now?
Villa were clinical certainly the first 75 minutes.
If they're getting torn apart, then that's an issue. And I think when you mentioned before about Tony and Calvert-Lewin and others, those are big centre forwards who would be dominant. Well, not dominant, but would compete really well against anybody in the league.
We saw Tony against City.
Exactly. So now that you've seen that, and you don't potentially have to see it again, I think you see that as a positive. I think defensively, it would be fantastic to keep a clean sheet. But if they kept clean sheets all throughout this season, but then didn't score as many goals as they want, then they're not going to win the league title. I think for me, in my mind, I've always felt, even as a defender, that the ability to score goals is the thing which gives you the most confidence on the field. Because you could be having a perfect game, then somebody scores from 40 yards out into the top corner. What would you do differently? The answer is nothing. There's nothing you could do. But I think the fact, say, for example, that they score 4 goals away from home, that's really significant. That's really significant. Always, from my perspective, means you've got a chance. I think, look at Man United. They've kept a ton of clean sheets and the like. But we talk about the goals that Rashford's scoring. The fact that they're opening sides up, scoring nice goals. I think for City, every time they don't get a result, for example, against Forest, it's not because they conceded one, because they only scored one.
That's
that's my perspective on it. But I think the two things do go hand in hand, because the teams who sit at the top, they control the games more than others and limit the chances the opposition have. So I think that's my sort of balance with that thing.
Yeah, and that's a fair. But to talk about the lineup again, so no Partey, as we said. We're not really sure exactly when he's going to come back. They obviously have a week to prepare now for the away game at Leicester, and then they will have a game in midweek against Everton at home after that. So kind of back to back compared to others who won't have that double game week kind of thing. It was interesting that Arteta, who's been by far the most of the top teams, the most conservative one in terms of starting 11, maybe because of a lack of depth in the squad, maybe because that starting 11 was working so well together. You could clearly see that they all knew what exactly the other was doing in midfield, up front, defensively. Now it changed. Martinelli went to the bench, was dropped. Trossard started, and Martinelli coming on, by the way, which I think you saw, certainly for me, the impact that he can have as a sub coming on, which I don't think Trossard, because he's a different player, but Martinelli brings you so much energy, and that kind of like, I'm going to run at you after 70th or 75th minute when you're tired already. Trossard is different. He's very good, but he's different.
I totally agree. I think if I was to be playing on the field for Villa, if you flip it and you saw Martinelli coming off and Trossard coming on, you appreciate that Trossard is a very good player. But you just think that physically you won't have to exert yourself any more than you just did to deal with Martinelli. Like, you saw his speed for the goal. When he must have been so excited when that ball got headed clear. He knew all he had to do was run in a straight line. He's quicker than probably 95% of players in the Premier League. So here's his big opportunity.
Did you see kind of celebrating and then he stopped because he was like, imagining bubbles and then let me get closer.
Just think, like, people all dream of playing at the highest level, playing in a game on TV in the Premier League, but not many people have the chance to celebrate on the edge of the box with no goalkeeper in goal. What a rare moment that is. But I think the Arsenal rotation, I personally think Arteta's conservative, not necessarily because he doesn't have the squad, it's because he just wants to be conservative. I think there's some managers who prefer having smaller squads. I think if he was desperate to have a bigger squad, I think he'd make more noise about it. And I think they would have backed him potentially a bit more. Because it doesn't necessarily need to be like top caliber players coming in. If he just wants bodies, they could get bodies. You could have people to back up. Like, you could literally bring someone in and say, you are a backup. Similar in the way to how we feel about Jorginho, you could say.
Yeah.
But he's not doing that. So I think to manage a smaller group is something he's interested in. And I think, obviously, they've been pretty healthy overall as well this season. That's been very significant. And as you mentioned before, Jorginho is a good player. But this Arsenal side feels better to me with Partey.
Yeah,
it feels like a big miss for me. So whereas you can manage other positions, it seems like for that one, it doesn't necessarily change the identity completely because it's still a winning side. But Partey has been one of the best players in the Premier League this whole season.
I think he breaks down the opposition's attacks more than Jorginho, who's not maybe as mobile.
Exactly.
But I don't know if you saw, there was a fascinating answer from Pep Guardiola in the press conference before the Forest game when someone asked him about the comment that he made after the Arsenal win, when he said that the first half was horrible.
Yeah.
But the guy asked the question by saying, you said the first half was horrible and you played Bernardo Silva as left back. And he goes like, no. I said the first half was horrible, but not because Bernardo played at left back. And then he's starting explaining that when he's got those gut feelings or something that he's thinking about, I need to play this player in this position, which we all think, okay, and he said, you think I'm overthinking, but I'm not overthinking. It's what I think is the best plan to win the game.
Yeah.
And he said, once I've got it in my head or in my gut, I have to go for it.
Yeah. And
I think Arteta, as a disciple of Pep, as much as he is, no problem, I don't think right now he's got that in him of and Pep said, just to finish on, he said, I could easily play the same team all the time, or the team that you expect here, starting with Gundogan started. And he said, but there's a reason why I don't play them. But I could play them and say, okay, it doesn't matter now. It's the team that everybody expects. They win, it's good. They don't win, well, it's okay. It's not the manager's fault because it's the team that he should have played, kind of thing. Yeah. He said, but I don't see it like that. I see it like, if I put De Bruyne on the bench, it's because I saw something else in my head that could trouble Spurs. So I play that, and then I hope for a win. And I think Arteta right now, conservatism is not a bad thing, especially when you're winning. When you got 50 points in the first half of the season. But I wonder if one day he will have that kind of gut instinct like Pep, or if he will always be a bit more cautious.
I think because they were winning so many games, it's quite easy to pick the same team. Yeah. I think if they were in a spell whereby, say, maybe people were injured and they weren't dominant in the games that they played in, I think he would be looking for something different. We can have people who, believe in like a 4-3-3 and so on and so forth. But still, you might want to tweak something. When the opposition is of a certain thing, they have a certain strength. Like, say, if City come and they're going to have like 6 midfielders just right in front of your midfield 3. Are you going to adjust to that, or are you going to take the stance that we are the dominant team, we stick with what we do? And I think for now, he's very confident being that because the team's done so well. And maybe it will change. But also, I like what Guardiola was saying. Yeah, shock horror. Me, the City fan, likes what Guardiola was saying. Because I think to myself, if I had a feeling in my gut and I was the one who had control, if I went against it and you lost, how'd you live with yourself? Yeah. Because as well, it's easier to revert back to what you know in a game, but it's harder to change to something that you don't know. Say if you start with a 4-3-3, and all of a sudden you want to think, let me invert this and do that. That brings confusion. Yes. And if it's not going to work out, you'd rather you have time to address it.
So you would rather start with the gut feeling.
Rather start with the gut feeling.
And then maybe change at half time.
And go back to something that you know.
Normal,
because if the gut feeling is working, then great. But if it's not, you know something that has a good chance of working anyway. There's never a guarantee. Because some of the people that I speak to when they talk about football, they're adamant, if you play this player in this position, in this formation, the team will win. That's not football. Yeah. Because you're playing against 11 other players who are also pretty good at football. Yeah. So I think, I get that. I do understand what people are saying.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.